Kahn was the architect of the First Unitarian Church in Rochester, New York. When Kahn was commissioned in 1962, he began by learning about the religion and the people he would be designing for. Consequently, he began by drawing a square for the sanctuary, and then he drew concentric circles around the square representing an ambulatory, it's kind of like a, they call it a narthex, a hallway, and a religious education wing. In the center of all this, he placed a question mark, symbolizing, in his words, the form realization of Unitarian activity as bound around that which is question eternal of why anything. So this is what Louis Kahn understood of us, that we were questioners, and he designed accordingly. And I'm told, I don't exactly see it myself, but I'm told that in the bird's eye view of the building, it really is a stunning piece of architecture. But if from a bird's eye view, there is the outline of a question mark. So you may know the long-standing joke that the symbol of Unitarian Universalism is not the chalice, the cross, or the coffee cup, but the question mark. And you may have heard that a Unitarian Universalist congregation is the place you come not to have your questions answered, but your answers questioned. Indeed, the Unitarian Universalists tend to be rationalists with relentlessly inquiring minds. And if given a choice between heaven and a discussion about heaven, we can't resist the latter. And if we were to choose a difficult worship theme to wrestle with this month, the theme of mystery, to me, checks that box. And couching this month's theme as the gift of mystery, well, that's just rubbing it in, y'all. Of those here in the Soul Matters group, do you agree that this month's packet was a challenge? A few hands, including mine. And it's not because we reject mystery or that we have to know all the answers. But mystery, not knowing, does feel a bit risky. I mean, how can we function well if we're not well informed? We must have a rational explanation for that star. Otherwise, we are compelled to consider the metaphysical, which in some circles of Unitarian Universalists is tantamount to blasphemy. I'm being tongue-in-cheek here, people, you can laugh. But seriously, I do wonder that when we settle for a supernova explosion as a hypothesis, did we ever consider that the birth story of Jesus is just that? A story. And it was always meant to be a story that tells of divine love made manifest in our world, not in the form of a king or a warrior, but a baby. My colleague, Reverend Steve Garnath Holmes, advises us to read the stories. There's one in Matthew and one in Luke in the Gospels. He says, read them without romanticizing them. And you see a story of God's vulnerable presence amidst poverty, oppression, and danger. He says the manger is not a cute image. It's about a family that's homeless, at risk, coping. It's about a vulnerable, powerless child who makes rough shepherds tender, who draws kings to worship on their knees, who threatens Herod and reorganizes society. The divine in this story manifests not as a ruler with a power over or against, but at first as a helpless infant and later as a humble, compassionate human vessel pouring out unconditional love on all. It's important for us to understand that divine love shows up on the side of the most vulnerable in this story. Now, we Unitarian Universalists certainly have the capacity to understand metaphor. Myths and lore point to deeper truths and bring meaning to our lives. And often just rote knowledge or trivia, having a trivia stuffed brain, that can be a stumbling block at times. And I ought to know because that's me. Knowledge resides in the head. It bolsters the ego and lends a sense of safety and surety. Knowledge combined with experience keeps us going as a species, but our human perceptions are really quite limited. And I believe we simply don't have the capacity to fully know the nature of our existence, not even as expressed in the physical laws of this universe in which we have our being. For instance, we can only infer that dark matter exists. We can't see it. We can't fathom its nature or its function. So for now, at least, dark matter remains a mystery. Scientists and skeptic extraordinaire Chet Ramo affirms this notion that we can't know everything. He says, "Let this be the ground of my faith. All that we know now and forever, all scientific knowledge that we have of this world or ever will have, is an island in the sea. Still, mystery surrounds us." Now, sometimes mystery is hard for us to accept. I know it's hard on the ego. The ego wants to know, the ego wants to be in control all the time. So in our Western world, the head rules. In much of my life, I bought into that Cartesian notion of I think, therefore I am, while ignoring the call of my heart to embrace the vastness of what cannot be known to any human. Letting go of the need to know and accepting mystery that far exceeds our knowledge can free our minds in a way that might actually expand our horizons and certainly our hearts. Do you remember me telling you, or about a mentor of mine who gave me the bumper sticker, "If you lived in your heart, you'd be home by now"? That's it. That's what I'm trying to say. But if you don't believe me, Eckhart Tolle says, being at ease with not knowing is crucial for answers to come to you, because you're open. You're open to what the universe has to tell you. And the kind of answers that somebody like Tola refers to, they're not facts, they're not artifacts of life, but deeper truths and insights about life. These are the gifts that life continually offers, but can be ascertained only when we sit still, listen, observe with openness, and welcome in the mystery that from whence comes the mystery where these gifts come from. The Buddha sat in such a way under a Bodhi tree for 49 days in a meditative state, open to what insight might come. And what came to him was a great spiritual truth or truths that has been an enduring gift to the world since. Now, patience, soul searching, being open to mystery are not common practices in our present day culture and society. We tend to shy away from mystery, from not knowing, as much as we avoid being vulnerable. And I worry a little bit about that inclination as we enter this high-tech era and artificial intelligence, which I'm just astounded at what it does already. It can tell you just about anything you want to know, but you don't know the extent of that information, right? You can't know the accuracy of where that's coming from. And so I worry about how we're going to handle that kind of power. Will we ask the right questions? Will we use care in our directives to a powerful platform like that learns from itself? I think there's no more important time for us as Unitarian Universalists to examine how we value, perhaps overvalue knowledge. We have a long-standing expectation of a learned clergy. We boast of being a faith of reason. And while our non-dualistic faith is what attracts people like you and me to our faith tradition, we might also accept that the truth and meaning that we're called to seek can be ascertained not only by knowledge and reason, but also through our heart, our soul, through deepest contemplation or highest conscience. In letting in the mystery and being comfortable with not knowing, embracing the ineffable, we must take our minds down from their pedestal and inhabit the rest of our body every now and then. So I was trying to get my head below my heart when I bowed to you. You can do that with a yoga pose. Getting your head below your heart is the first step in humility, the humility that we need when we look into a clear and vast night sky and feel a deep sense of awe. Without awe, the ego wants to conquer that infinite space that makes the ego feel small and vulnerable. But when the night sky is beheld with awe, the soul is awakened. It's awakened by connection with the infinite. and the heart leaps at the twinkling sight of countless celestial spheres. Another colleague, Laura Stevens, points out another kind of connection realized through a contemplative life, and she says that those who take up an intense practice, who realize through sudden epiphany or years of nirvana seeking focus, the simple fact emerges that all things are connected in a universal whole. Those people, she says, are called mystics, and you can find them in every religion holding a golden thread that links all cultures. I have said before that I'm agnostic about just about everything. But part of the reason why is captured here by Kent Nurburn, and he says that when all the words have been written, all the phrases have been spoken, the great mystery of life will still remain. We may map terrains of our lives, measure the farthest reaches of the universe, but no amount of searching will ever reveal for certain whether we are all children of chance or part of a great design. And who among us would have it otherwise, he says? Who would wish to take the mystery out of the experience of looking into a newborn infant's eyes? Margaret Gooding wrote no truer words than these. Some bright star shines somewhere in the heavens each time a child is born. I leave you with the question, why not a star?